Retired at 60? Then here's a number that might shock you. 0. That's what most Australians think they'll get from Centrelink until they hit 67. And that belief is costing people thousands of dollars a year in support they were entitled to the entire time. Here's the truth. Nothing from Centrelink until 67 is only true for one payment, the age pension. But Centrelink isn't just the age pension. It runs a whole system of payments, and some of them are sitting there fully available years before that 67th birthday ever arrives. If nobody's told you this, you're not alone, but it's time somebody did. So why does this gap even exist? It comes down to two very different numbers that get confused constantly. 60 is the preservation age, the earliest point super can generally be touched. 67 is the age pension age, the point where the government pension itself kicks in. Between those two ages sits a 7-year stretch that trips up even careful planners. And reaching 60 doesn't automatically unlock everything either. To access super between 60 and 65, a genuine condition of release has to be met. Usually that means retiring, permanently ceasing employment with no intention of returning to work. Keep working past 60, even part-time, and that door to super stays shut until 65, when access becomes unconditional regardless of work status. There's also a quieter cost that catches people off guard. The day paid work stops, so do employer super contributions. No salary, no super guarantee payments landing in the account. That's a detail worth building into any bridge plan, not discovering after the fact. Now, the part almost nobody talks about, the payments that are available before 67. Job seeker payment is the big one. It's available from age 22 right through to age pension age, and it isn't just for people actively hunting for a new job. It also covers people temporarily unable to work due to illness or injury. Then there's the disability support pension, which is based on health and functional capacity, with no link to retirement age at all. Carer payment and carer allowance exist for anyone providing significant care to another person, again, independent of age. And then there's a card that deserves far more attention than it gets, the low-income healthcare card. No assets test whatsoever. It's assessed purely on income, averaged over an 8-week period. Substantial savings, superannuation, or property in the background? Doesn't matter. Income is what's measured. But here's the flip side, and it matters just as much. The Commonwealth Seniors Health Card is not one of the early options. That one specifically requires having already reached age pension age. Confuse it with the low-income healthcare card, and an application gets rejected for the wrong reason entirely. Now for the rule that changes everything, the one piece of information that unlocks this entire strategy. Superannuation, sitting in accumulation phase, is exempt from both Centrelink's income test and its assets test right up until age pension age is reached. Picture this, $500,000 sitting in super. Under 67, accumulation phase, untouched. That balance is invisible to Centrelink. If other assets and income are modest, job seeker eligibility can still stand, even with that $500,000 technically belonging to the applicant. That's not a loophole, it's how the system has always been designed to work. But there are two triggers that switch this exemption off instantly. Trigger 1, turning 67, age pension age, at which point the full balance becomes accessible under both tests. Trigger 2, converting that super into an account-based pension. The moment that conversion happens, deeming rules apply, and the balance is captured under the assets test, regardless of age. So the sequencing here isn't a minor detail, it's the entire strategy. Now, the fine print. Redundancy payouts can trigger an income maintenance period, delaying payments until that payout is effectively used up on paper. There's also a liquid assets waiting period, up to 13 weeks, for anyone holding cash or readily accessible savings above a threshold. And mutual obligation requirements still apply, though they're relaxed for anyone 55 and over, where approved volunteering can count toward meeting them. So how are people actually funding this gap in practice? Three approaches show up again and again. The first is self-funding through an account-based pension, drawing under the minimum rate rules, currently 4% annually for anyone under 65, while keeping payments structured tax-effectively. The second is part-time work combined with keeping the bulk of super parked in accumulation phase, preserving that invisibility exemption for as long as possible. The third is couple strategy, staggering retirement dates so one partner's income keeps the household afloat while the other transitions out, taking advantage of the natural age gap between partners to smooth the whole process out. Which brings us to the mistakes, the ones that quietly undo years of good planning. Converting super into an account-based pension too early is the big one, because it switches off that invisibility exemption the moment it happens, even if pension age is still years away. Second, failing to plan around job seekers' waiting periods and getting blindsided by a redundancy payout that delays support exactly when it's needed most. Third, overlooking the low-income healthcare card entirely, missing out on a genuinely valuable concession simply because nobody mentioned it exists. Fourth, attempting to gift assets away to dodge the assets test. Centrelink applies a 5-year look-back under the deprivation rule. Gift more than $10,000 in a financial year or $30,000 over a rolling 5 years, and the excess still counts as an asset for 5 full years regardless. And fifth, applying for the wrong card altogether, confusing the Commonwealth Seniors Health Card with the Low-Income Healthcare Card when they serve completely different age groups. So what should the action plan actually look like? Years out from 60, start estimating how much bridge funding will realistically be needed to cover that gap to pension age. Right before 60, get the sequencing right. Work out exactly when to retire, when to access super, and when or if to convert to an account-based pension, because doing this in the wrong order is where most of the value gets lost. Along the way, the free financial information service run by Services Australia is worth using, genuinely useful, genuinely free, and built specifically for exactly these kinds of questions. And for anyone with a more complex position, multiple assets, a spouse with a different retirement timeline, or a larger super balance, a licensed financial advisor can help fine-tune exactly when to draw down and when to convert. The bottom line, nothing until 67 was never actually true. There's a structured, well-defined path through those 7 years. It just requires knowing which payments exist, which rules protect superannuation along the way, and which mistakes quietly close doors that should have stayed open. Get the sequencing right, and that gap between 60 and 67 stops looking like a cliff edge and starts looking like exactly what it is, a bridge.